All right, guys, we are on the backside of Unit 3, Day 5 notes, and we're talking about domain and range. And we have a bunch of examples of where we're going to go ahead and find it. So in the first graph, remember we said that it was easier to draw a vertical line. You don't have to. Okay? It's just a strategy if you're struggling with the topic. What that means is that green line, there's no points passed there on the graph. All the graph is contained between those two x values, and those x values are -1, -2. -3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, and so our domain could be written as -3, 6. And because those are both closed circles, we're going to include both numbers. Okay, for our range, the lowest this graph goes is here. There's no points lower than it. And the highest it goes is here. There's no points higher than it. And so -1, -2, -3, -4. -5 is the lowest, which has to be the first number. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 is the highest, which is the second number. So remember the lowest number first, which is hard for us because we normally do top to bottom. But with range, we have to go bottom because that's the lowest number to top. And we're going to use brackets because we have closed circles at each one of those, and we're going to include them. Okay. If you wanted to see how set, that is interval notation. If you want to see how set notation is written, our domain would look something like this, where it's a -3, 6. X would be in the middle because it's domain, and because we included both points with square brackets, we would include both here. You actually are equal to -3 and equal to 6, and all the values of x in between those numbers. Okay. Range would look similar. It would be a -5 though, and it would be a 4, and it would be a y in the middle because range is your y values. And because those are closed brackets, these would be equal to underneath the less than symbols. Okay. All right. And number 2. And the first thing I noticed about this graph is that these keep going. Okay. They not only keep going to the left, which is -infinity. Whoops, that's a terrible infinity sign. It almost looks like an 8. Although some people do turn their paper in order to write the infinity sign. They turn it and then write a normal 8, and then when they turn it back, it's an infinity symbol. So this would be -infinity. Can't get my infinity sign down today. All right, because it is going to the left, and as you notice, going to the right, it is slightly going to the right as well, and so that's positive infinity. It was a little bit better. Okay, and so when we go ahead and do our interval notation, we would say that our domain, okay, is -infinity to infinity. Okay, and you never can actually reach infinity. It's just an idea that number keeps going, okay, or a graph keeps going. And so now we're going to go ahead and look at the range. Okay, this is a little different though because this does not go any lower than that line. So that is the lowest, the bottom. 2, 3, 4, -4. Okay. However, with parabolas, they do keep going up, right? And going up is headed towards positive infinity. So on this parabola, we have -4 for the minimum and infinity for the maximum. Okay. And with -4, that would get a square bracket. All right, since we actually reached that point. Okay. If we were doing this with set notation, our domain, we would just actually say all reals. We actually don't use the infinity signs and the inequalities. We would just say all reals. All reals refers to all real numbers. You are hitting all real numbers from all the way to the left to all the way to the right, and every single integer and decimal and fraction in between there. And so that's what all real means. All reals is all real numbers. Okay. And for our range would be, it's a little bit tricky, so bear with me. So this would be a y, and it's hitting all y values that are greater than or equal to -4. So that's a little bit tricky because of the infinity. It wouldn't be like the other notations we use with the inequalities. So we would say y is greater than or equal to -4. So all your y values are greater than or above -4 or equal to it because you actually reached it. Okay. All right. We got two more coming up with 3 and 4. Okay. All right. Number 3. We can go ahead and draw our vertical line in there for the left. However, on the right-hand side, we notice that that's going towards infinity. Okay, so we can put infinity there, -1, 2, 3, 4. This is -4. And so our domain would look like this. It would be a -4, comma, infinity. -4, though, that's a closed circle. You actually reached it, so include it. And infinity has the arrow. We never include it. It's still going towards infinity. Okay. For our range, the lowest it goes is here. However, as this is going towards the right, it is also still slightly going up, even though it seems to be more pointing towards the right, but you can see the tendency of the graph there as it is going towards the right, it's still going up, and so it's ever slightly going up towards infinity. Okay, and going back to the lowest it goes is 2. So it goes from 2 to infinity. 2 is a closed dot, so it gets the included bracket. Infinity we never reach. Okay, if we were doing set notation, our domain would be x values that are greater than or equal to -4, and our range would be our y values that are greater than or equal to 2. Okay. And number 4 is more of a pre-calc topic, but this is called a step function. Okay. And with step functions, we have to be careful because, well, you get the open circles, the closed circles, and there's no values in between the steps. Okay. So we do start there with our lowest x value, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, -4. However, it's an open circle. We don't actually reach there. And then we're all values along this line. And then this circle makes up for that circle not being there. And then we're all values for x on that line. And then all values here, we don't quite reach that, but the closed circle makes up for that open one. And then all values there and then there. And there is our furthest x value. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so every single x value is hit from -4 to 5. And so that makes our domain -4, comma 5. But with -4, it's an open circle. So we get a round parenthesis. And the closed circle is included. Okay. For range, the lowest we go is here. And again, the open circle and the closed circle kind of take over for each other. But then we're no y values in here. And then we're y values here. No y values here, and then y values here. So we got to be careful that when we write our range, we only actually say the values we are instead of like an interval of values. So that makes that tricky and hard to understand. But the first y value we are, that first line there is 0. And then we're not any y values until 2 with that middle horizontal line segment. And then we're no y values up until 4. So there's actually only 3 y values we are. And so that's why we write them as 3 separate numbers with this in the set brackets. Okay, so that's a tough one, but you'll see more of that in pre-calc. Not so much in algebra 2, so don't be too concerned about that one. Okay, so the way you would write the domain would be -4, 5, x values. And we're going to say less than for the -4, and we're going to say less than or equal to there for the 5. Okay. For the range, we would literally just copy down the same thing, 0, 2, and 4. Okay. All right, so next one up, number 5. And again, we can go ahead and draw in our vertical lines if you find that helpful, so that you can see that 1, 2, -3, 1, 2, +3. And so our domain is -3 to 3, and they're both included, no open circles, okay? And with our range, lowest to highest, lowest is at 0, highest is at 3. And so we would say 0, comma 3, and we actually reach those, so square brackets, okay? Our domain, if we're doing set notation, would be -3, 3x less than equal to, less than equal to. Okay? Our range would be 0 to 3, but y values in less than or equal to, less than or equal to. Okay. All right, number 6. On this one, we see arrows there, and as it's going down, it is still going to the left, and so it's heading towards -infinity. This one is going toward up, but also to the right, so it's heading towards +infinity. And so for our domain, we could say all reals, since it's including all x values as it goes left and still right. And so we could say -infinity to +infinity. Okay. We could also just say all reals if that's easier to write. Okay. Either one is fine. For your range, lowest it goes, actually it's still going down towards -infinity, and it is still going up towards +infinity. And so we could write the same exact thing. We could say -infinity to infinity with round parentheses, or we could also say all reals. Doesn't matter. Okay. If you were doing set notation, you would just do all reals. Okay. But either one. Okay. Number 7. As I go to the left, I see that arrow, and that as that arrow is heading towards the down direction, it is still going towards the left, so that's -infinity. And as this one is going up, it is still slightly going to the right, so +infinity. And so our domain would be -infinity to infinity, or again, you could just say all reals, and you do not have to write both of them. If you write all reals, then you wouldn't write -infinity to infinity. Okay, one or the other. You don't need both. They mean the same exact thing. Okay. For the range, lowest is still going down towards a -infinity, and highest is still going up towards +infinity. So again, I could write the same thing, or I usually write all reals. Okay. All right, graph number 8. Okay, left. Well, as those are going towards the left, so this is heading towards -infinity. However, on the right-hand side, that is no part of the graph is past that point, so 3. And so if we're writing our domain, it would be -infinity to 3. This would be round, and this would be a bracket or including. Okay. With our range, as it is going towards the left, it is still going down towards -infinity. And as this is going towards the left, it is still going up, and so it's headed towards +infinity. And so I would just write all reals. Okay. For set notation, your domain would be your x values are less than or equal to 3. Okay, all x values are less than or equal to 3. And then for your range, you could just keep all reals. Okay. All right, that's a little bit on domain and range. Take your time with it, count correctly, and try to do what I did with the horizontal and vertical lines. If you get stuck, circle the arrows, and then tell what direction it's heading towards by writing +infinity or -infinity. It might help you. All right, guys. I will see you guys on the next day of notes.